Well, welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Tanner O'Brien. I'm a senior partner here at Action Coach in Central Texas. Today, I'm sitting down with Jessica Scanlon, who is the founder and top dog at Hot Dog Marketing. Super excited to be jumping in, having some conversation, talking about business, this crazy journey of entrepreneurship, kind of all the stuff that comes along with it. So, first and foremost, Jessica, thank you so much for taking the time to be here and chat with me today. Why don't we just start with a little bit of background? Give us
That
the,
sounds
we'll
good.
say the 10,000 foot view of who you are, and then tell us a little bit about Hot Dog Marketing.
Oh, okay. Well, 10,000 foot view. I'm a mom. I've been married to my husband 14 years. We just celebrated our anniversary. And Hot Dog Marketing is 12 years old. So a majority of our marriage has been around me trying to make this business work. So you could interview him on a separate time about how that affected him. And my daughter is 10, so she has been a huge part of it as well. Agency started, well, I was started working with clients back in 2008. I was working at a consulting company. They had to cut my hours back to part-time. And so to make up for my loss in income, I started working with small businesses. And what was great about that is I got a lot of referrals just from that consulting company because they were trying to help me out and keep me busy. I eventually did get a full-time job at a company called Aramark, which is a big food services and uniform company. And I did that for several years, and I did this on the side. And then in 2012, they decided to let me go. And I remember having just heartburn over the idea of going and working for another person who's going to lay me off or fire me. It's just you had no control over your destiny.
Hmm.
Um, and so my husband was in a fortunate spot with his job, so it seemed like a good time to go and try to make this a reality in 2012. And here we are now. We host and maintain over 100 websites for different businesses. We've probably served about 350 small to medium-sized businesses. We're a platinum HubSpot partner, so now we have clients coming in from all over the country for that. Let's see, we launch and build about 20 websites a year, and if it's a good year. And we work on these amazingly big strategic branding projects for companies now. It's been really, really fun.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm
Yeah.
excited to dive into some of that, kind of the business side of things. But before we do, I
Yeah.
want to go kind of into the journey. So when you did officially make that
Mhm.
decision to go off completely on your own, leave the maybe not security net of
Yeah.
having
No,
a job somewhere else.
you
But
never have a
what was
guaranteed job, do you?
That's right.
Yeah.
So what was that like I don't know, like emotionally for you? Was it did you have fear? Was it just straight excitement at that point? You just knew from that, at that moment on that you're like, yep, this is what I'm going to do. But kind
Yeah.
of talk me through that transition and was it an easy choice? Was it a difficult choice?
I think it was an
What
easy
happened?
choice because at the time I was so naive. Like I had no idea what I was doing. So when you have no idea what you're doing, choices seem simple and like, oh, this is gonna be great. I had plenty of time at the beginning to like exercise and take care of myself, before I had any clients. Um, but man, the moment you start getting work, you start having some sales, and then everything starts to snowball, you do have moments of just like, what did I get myself into? I had so many moments where I realized I wasn't equipped to run a business, but you learn, and you talk to any mom, you just like learn how to expand your skill set like as needed, right? Um, so I think at the beginning I was excited because I was naive, and asked me if I know what I know now. If I would have gone back and done the same thing, it would have been a harder choice.
I love that.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know, and
Hmm.
sometimes that ignorance is bliss or whatever, and being able
Hmm.
to kind of jump into it and have some fun with it.
That's right.
Um, but what about just like the marketing side in general? What led you to that? Was that kind of the direction you always wanted to get into? Kind of what led you to the industry in general?
Yeah. When I was in college, I was a newspaper journalism major. I thought I was gonna write for the Washington Post and, have this great like newspaper journalism career. And first, this was what when did I go to college? 1999 is when I graduated high school. So I should have known better that newspapers weren't going to be kind of where I needed to land. I loved to write. So I ended up switching my major to a corporate communications degree, which is so generic. It's, talking in public. I think it was like the rebranded speech class at UT. So when I graduated, I had no idea what I was going to do. But I fell into it because at the time I was working full time at Guitar Center. I was a salesperson. And I was able to talk my way into a marketing job at a music instrument company. And I was their marketing coordinator, which was a great experience. Not a great employer, but great experience, like that I just got to do like a bunch of different things. We worked in a fairly large team, which is unusual. We had a team of graphic designers, we had a web developer, we had a product manager, a trade show guy. So there was just like a lot going on. I got to learn a lot about marketing from that job and decided I really, really liked it. So, flash forward when I started working with small businesses, the first thing I kind of noticed at the time, like in 2008, were the small businesses didn't really have a concept of what branding was.
Mhm.
So they knew what a logo is, but they don't really understand what it means to like build your company into a personality that people relate to and that want to do business with you and that remember you. And I always talk about the metaphor of like you walked into a party and you didn't know anybody there, and then you walked right out. Who would you remember when you saw them at the grocery store? Nobody, right? They're all nameless, they're all faceless people, right? But you have to get to know them to understand their personality. And so branding is this whole like very weird concept that business owners have a hard time understanding. So that's kind of where I started. It was like, hey, why don't we like shore up your stuff? Like let's get consistent. Let's come up with some messaging, and that's how I worked with small businesses in the beginning. And then it was also the era of, at the time, if you had a business page on Facebook, you could get a million customers just out of nowhere, the golden era. um, so I was teaching businesses how to get on Facebook and how to use social media. And for some of them, I'd set up basic email marketing because they didn't know how to do that either. I think about like how easy that kind of work was back then and how complicated digital marketing is now, all these years later. But back then, that's kind of what got me going. And what's nice is you work with a small to medium sized business. Most of our clients are 100 employees or less. You can see the difference, right? It's like a little speedboat. You make a pivot and then you see the business shift, right? And they get to celebrate wins. When you work at these big companies, and you work in a marketing department, you have no idea if anything you're doing affects the business at large, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes you don't even know why you're doing some things you're doing. So that's really fun too. Plus, working with the clients has been amazing. I mean, just like you, I love talking to business owners and entrepreneurs. So I can do it all day long. Makes it a joy.
That's fantastic. I'm
Yeah.
going to ask this might be a bit of a loaded or maybe just a really big question to try and,
Okay.
sift through. But having been around marketing as long as you have and working with clients as long as you have, how would you describe like the difference or do you see a major difference in what marketing looks like, a decade ago versus what it is today?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the funny thing is, we were just talking about this the other day. Um, this very high tech company that does programmatic advertising sent a person in real life to our office with a little plant to introduce themselves to us. And I thought, what is the irony that they having such a hard time getting in front of us that they're back to old school methods of just sending somebody something in the mail, right? And so back then when we started, it was really easy. And one of my favorite books is called They Ask You Answer, which
Mm,
is a really
yeah.
simple concept behind like how you do search engine optimization and, develop content for your website that's customer centric. And it is an older book, right? I think it's like 2014 or something like that. So when you read it, you go, and yes, that is how you do it. But just because you do it doesn't mean you're going to end up with all like 1,000 visitors overnight, from that one blog. It's just not that easy anymore. And so um, I think where there used to be, when we got started, a lot of tactics that worked really well. I think we're back at a place where your brand is so much more important and you have to really be strategic. And sometimes that means you have to do things other than digital too to get that in front of people. Maybe like send a person with a plant to somebody's office like we did a couple weeks ago. Um, I think you have to be much more strategic nowadays because there is so much noise and so many people trying to do, overnight quick fixes to their marketing, and it's not effective anymore.
How do you feel relationship plays into, especially for B2B businesses?
Mhm.
How important is relationship when it comes to marketing and generating quality prospects for a business?
Yeah, trust is huge, right? So there we have lots of market research that says that the people who are making those purchasing decisions on behalf of their business, their number one thing is being risk averse. That there's a saying, oh, nobody ever got fired for hiring Microsoft, even if Microsoft can screw up the whole project, right? You hired Microsoft. Um, so trust is huge, and it's hard to build trust on digital marketing alone, right? Um, and so brand plays a big part in it. The people that work at your company being out in the community, I think, makes a big difference. I was having dinner the other night with some other agency owners here in town. We meet pretty regularly, and they were asking me about my community work, like if there's any ROI for the agency, the amount of time I spend on it. And I was like, I'm sure there is, but for me, it's like Jessica and her company won't screw up your project because she's so public facing. Why would she want to walk around and have kind of a ruined reputation by screwing up people's work, right? I think that's like the indirect connection. So reputation is big and trust is big. And then if you're lucky to have enough salespeople to like go out into the world and do good, then you want to hire people that fit your brand and your core values. That way, their interaction with every individual is a reflection of your company as a whole.
Mm. It's so powerful. I love that.
Yeah.
Um, so looking back now, you've been growing this business for the last 12 years or so,
Mm.
and you've hired along team members along the way. What does your role look like today in the business, and how has that changed from kind of day one to where it's at today, having a team? What does it mean to be the top dog at
Oh,
Hot Dog
yeah.
Marketing?
Well, have you read The E-Myth, that book?
Yes.
Yes, that's a famous book, right? I was like living that. I was the pie shop owner for like 4 years, right? 4 or 5 years. I really struggled in the beginning to get out of doing everything and then figuring out how to delegate work and create systems to manage people and processes and quality of work. And we've had lots of, mess ups along the way. But now I can say what's nice is I used to do everything. Now I have such a great team that I oversee our finances, which, on a regular basis isn't that much work. Um, HR issues, compliance issues, legal issues. I do a lot of our anything that's public facing like this, or we have a monthly lunch series that we do, and I present training and free resources there. But I would say probably like a good 25 to 30% of my time is doing community stuff. Like it
Mm.
has nothing to do with um, actually like promoting our agency. I just make sure that I'm out and about, you know, networking and supporting causes I care about and doing things with chambers, which I love chamber stuff. So
Yeah, I love that.
yeah.
So when you went on this path and you hired
Hmm.
your first couple of employees,
Yeah.
What was that like? Was it a challenge to hire people on and start to let things go? Because I know that there's a lot of entrepreneurs that I've had the privilege to have some conversations with, and that can be like a sticking point. Like
Yeah.
I know I need to let go. I know I need to hand these things off, but it's easier said than done sometimes.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of navigate that as you started to make some of those transitions?
Oh gosh. Well, I started with contractors, which makes it a little bit easier. So you're giving away the overflow work. But when I had my first actual employee, I mean, I remember one day I hid under my desk and I was like crying because I wasn't sure if I was going to make payroll. And I thought, like, why did I do this? And how am I supposed to have a conversation with this individual and let him know I don't think I can pay him? Um, it was rough. The first person I hired full time was a graphic designer, and his name's Brandon, and he worked with us up until last year. So he was with us for almost the entire ride. And he started as like a part-time contractor and then just a part-time employee and then eventually full-time employee with salary. And then he was our creative director for many, many, many years. And that was one, it was a skill set that I needed for the agency that I was terrible at, right? Like I could fake it, but I thought if people are paying like real money, I should probably have a professional graphic designer doing this work. So that was kind of easy. So it's like, this is what I'm like the worst at service wise. So we'll hire somebody there. And in hindsight, it made sense because he's a billable person. And what I didn't really understand back then, which I do now, is that if you have the work and you can hire someone who's, revenue generating, then you're safe. You just, as long as you're collecting the cash from your invoices, which was the problem I had when I was hiding under my desk, because I was too chicken to go collect money from people who owed me money. Um, so that was easy. When we get into hiring like sales roles and administrative roles, those are trickier, right? And they're long-term investments. Those are like a real look at yourself and say, I don't have the capacity to do
Mhm.
this by myself anymore. And something suffering in the business because I'm not doing it well anymore, right? Both of those aren't billable like a graphic designer or web developer. If they're working and producing work and we're billing that work, then that all is great, right? So those roles are harder to get to a point to, I think, where you can hire. But when you do, and you feel like you've got the confidence to move forward with them and train them, make sure they're doing the right work, it frees you up to go spend 30% of your time out in the community.
Oh, that those are there's some really good lessons there.
Mm,
So I'm curious as you look at lessons and you kind of look at
mhm.
your journey over the past decade or so. Are there any outside of that moment of knowing if you can make payroll and things like
Yeah.
that? Are there any other kind of moments that stand out in your mind that were maybe kind of like pivotal moments or key hurdles or roadblocks that you had to kind of push past as a business owner that has allowed you to become the business leader that you are today?
That's a good question. I always think about the story where I was, when I started, I had no accounting background. Like, in fact, and I'm talking to someone who like understands finance really well. And when I was working for that other company prior to here, I was going to apply to go to business school, get my MBA because that company paid for some of your graduate school. And when I was looking at all of these MBA programs, it's like years and years of accounting and finance. It was like, and so I never signed up because I didn't want to do it. And then come to own a business and like I'm trying to balance things on a spreadsheet to figure out where I'm at. And I was like, well, this isn't working. And so I went and bought QuickBooks and I put QuickBooks on the computer. This is when it was on a disk, right? I put QuickBooks on my computer and I opened it up and I didn't understand anything. Like I didn't understand what chart of accounts was. And like, so I just like slowly backed away from my computer and I had to go sign up for a QuickBooks class. And when I signed up for the QuickBooks class, I realized that was too advanced for me. So I had to find like an accounting for small business class and take that first and then go back to the QuickBooks class. And then you know what I did? I outsourced it because I understood it well enough to figure out that I didn't want to do it and I needed to just understand how it worked. And so I'm a big fan of outsourcing pieces of your business that seem like they should be in the hands of an expert. Um, I could say that because I'm a marketing firm and I want people to outsource stuff to me, but we do it too, right? So we hire QuickBooks experts, we have accountants, we have lawyers, we have HR consultants. Like, I'm not trying to make this stuff as I go along. Like, I need experts. And so I think one of the first things I always tell new business owners, I was like, find your people because you're going to need
Mhm.
them, right? Same with coaching. I've had coaches the entire time. And I don't think there's anything wrong with working with a coach and a mentor and joining peer groups. And like, you have to be able to talk about this stuff. Owning a business is the loneliest job otherwise. And so your problems, what's nice is your problems aren't unique. You just have to find somebody to share those problems with. That way you can get the help you need.
Yeah,
So
no kidding.
yeah,
The uniqueness lies within the cohort of people that
that's
understand it, and
that's
unfortunately, you
right.
got to just go find that cohort.
That's right.
Um, but you mentioned something that I think is like really important, and that's you had to go learn enough about something to
Mm,
be able to properly outsource it and things like that. And
that's right.
I know that that's come up a lot of kind of the conversations I've had with successful business owners. It's like you can go hire people all day long, but you need to know enough to ask the right questions to know if they know what they're doing to be able to do
That's
it.
right. Yeah.
Don't have to know it all, just enough. Like have to learn all these things, which is really kind of a powerful yet sometimes overwhelming piece of learning business,
Hmm.
and we get to do it along the journey and learn
That's
it as
right.
we go, right?
And I
Uh,
start every year going, I have no idea what I'm going to learn this year about owning a business, but there's something new is going to pop up, and I'll be like, I have to go learn that thing now. And otherwise, we can't do the next thing, right? So every year, there's always something. Yeah.
yes.
Hmm.
So before we get to some of the rapid fire questions, I
Okay.
want to make sure we at least take a moment here and talk about kind of what makes your business so special. Probably one of my favorite questions to ask, and this is really for the audience, is who primarily does your business serve? And I know we've kind of talked about it a little bit
Hmm.
so far, but I want to get like super crystal clear. If I'm in the audience and I'm watching this later on, how do
Yeah.
I know that I'm a really good fit to give you all a call, or I might know somebody that I should refer over to you?
Oh, yeah. Our ideal clients, like I said before, small to medium-sized businesses. They're going to be a few years old and have some established success, right? So we work with business owners or we work with revenue leaders. And one thing I like to say is hot dog marketing is your sales team's best friend. So unlike other agencies that love working with marketing departments or our vendors for marketing VPs or CMOs, we really do work best with people who know what the sales goals are because we can come in
Mhm.
behind and do marketing strategy, KPIs, dashboards, examine everything from a big view down to a really microscopic view, and kind of set up activities that lead to success and help them look good too. So that some of our best partnerships are like I said, with sales leaders or operations leaders. But typically we work with business owners if they're going to be 100 employees or less. It tends to be the business owner that's involved.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And when you look at kind of the scope of work that y'all are, I don't want to say specialize in, but maybe like suit y'all best. You
Hmm.
mentioned websites in there. I know there's 100 different lead
Yeah.
channels that we could talk about. Kind of what are the key areas that y'all are the best at? Someone's like, I need help with website or email marketing or how to
Hmm.
network better or whatever it is out there. What are some of the kind of key areas that just stand out the most in terms of the skill within your team?
Yeah. I think clients that come with us with the goal of we're trying to grow. And so we want to scale by doing more marketing. We work with a lot of B2B companies that have had successful track records with their sales team, but they realize that could be so much more if they actually had leads coming in, not just people going and finding the leads, right? And so a lot of lead generation work is what we're good at. So figuring out brand strategy, website strategy, content strategy, and then running digital campaigns is typically where we kind of our sweet spot. And like I said, we're HubSpot Platinum partners. So a majority of our clients will use the HubSpot suite of software. We'll set it up. We'll set up all the dashboards. We train the sales team on how to use HubSpot. and even come up with better processes if they don't have any, and have them like start putting their sales in there too. So we can have some attribution data, some ROI stuff, know how the funnel's actually working from visitor all the way down to close deal.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely love that. And I think it gives a good picture for those that are watching and can kind of start to hopefully connect some dots on where
Yeah.
things
Hopefully
stand.
they all want to do it.
That's right. That's right.
That's right.
100%.
Let's get serious.
That's right. So, well, I've got a couple rapid fire questions I'd love
Okay.
to kind of start to wrap us up on. Just pull
Okay.
out some, we'll call them wisdom nuggets for the audience here.
Okay.
So the first one is, as you look at kind of your journey overall, and what would you say kind of would be your key to success for you as you kind of look at traits or things that you do or routines or anything like that help attribute to your success? What would that be for you?
Well, I'm going to steal the answer from my former creative director. He said my key to success is I become best friends with everybody. Like I don't worry about selling or, having like some big promotional thing. I want connection. And so I'm typically just becoming friends with individuals, and that leads to us having a good reputation, good word of mouth, people coming in the door. So yeah.
I love that. That's
Everybody's just a
fantastic.
friend I haven't made yet.
Oh, that's amazing. I cannot say that that is definitely my personality, but that is awesome. I love it. How about advice? If you could give just one piece of advice for other entrepreneurs out there, what piece of advice would you want to give them today?
Mm, like early in their journey, like starting out, or
Can be at whatever level you would like to give advice to.
um, well, I guess this applies to any level, but I think pay yourself what you're worth based on your
Mm,
job title and business size. You'll find out really quick if your business model is working or not, you know? Um, and for years, I didn't pay myself what I needed to. And it was only because I was trying to have competitive salaries for the people that worked here that I realized I should probably have a salary that's somewhat competitive as well. Otherwise, none of this really matters. So I wish I had done it from the beginning. I think we would have fixed a lot of financial and business model issues faster if I had done that from the get-go.
ooh, that is a good piece of advice. I know you've mentioned one already, but book recommendations. Anything that you're reading currently or you've read recently that you would recommend? I'll even open it up to audiobooks or podcasts or anything else that we
Oh,
totally recommend
geez.
there. But anything that you would recommend for the audience?
Gosh, there's a lot. I read a lot of business books. I read a lot of like I read half of a lot of business books. Usually like I get the point and then I put it away. But yeah, They Ask You Answer is a great book. We recommend it to all of our clients. I even buy them in bulk and hand them out like, you know, and then The Purple Cow is
Hmm,
one of my favorite branding books. That one's a little older too, but I think it teaches businesses really quickly that brand isn't a logo, that it's how you conduct your business and how you present it on a regular basis. And it has great little nuggets in there. And that's Seth Godin. And then, oh geez, I've got some right behind me. I mean, traction is one that I give out to people too.
hmm.
Not that we
Yeah,
follow traction to like a T, but there are so many good like operational things in that book that like when I have a problem, I can usually open that book and find like, oh, it's because I didn't do this the right way, you know? It makes me take a step back, kind of reorganize things.
excellent. Those are
Yeah.
phenomenal recommendations.
Oh, thanks.
Um, I love that you put they ask you answer on the list. I don't think I've had anyone else actually put that on the list yet, but
No.
it's definitely one that I
Well,
enjoy and
if
have
you
read a
haven't read
couple
it, I'll
times.
give you a copy.
So one more rapid fire question before we
Okay.
get to kind of the ending question I always like to kind of finish on. And this one's just kind of fun. If you could choose one area in your business where you could take a little bit of magic dust, and this the key is you only get to choose one area. That's the fun part.
Okay.
Take a little bit of magic dust and sprinkle it all over that one spot. Wake up tomorrow, it's 10 times better than it is today. Where would you choose to put that magic dust?
Oh my gosh. That's tough because we have everything always needs improvement. Um, as we obviously we have a lot of stuff automated with HubSpot, but I do wish that we had enough time to just like have a full-time resource that was just automating everything in my business and like figuring out where we needed to be using AI, where we're not using it currently.
Mm.
We use some of it, but I mean, I know that that would make a huge difference for us if I could just magically create that resource that we could afford. And that's all they did was automate processes, procedures, and use AI.
Dang, that's a really good answer. I like
Yeah.
that one. So for
Well, you're
those
an
that,
operational person. That's
yeah,
why I
that's
was.
right. That's right. So for those that enjoyed this conversation, that want to learn more about you, that want to connect with you, that want to follow you, that want to learn more about the business and how they can get involved, where can we advise them to go for more information?
Yeah, our website's hotdogmarketing.net. And there's a little button at the top of there that says let's chat if you want to schedule a consultation. But we also have an amazing resource library. So if you go under educational resources, you'll see a listing of all of our education events that you can register for. Or you can tap into our resource library where we've got like templates for marketing plans and content plans and things like that. So free
Beautiful.
ebooks. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I will make sure to put both of those in the description below. So for those of you that are watching, make sure you go check out all of the information. If you are here local to the Round Rock area, I know Jessica is very involved in the Round Rock community, so you may see
Mm.
her around. If you do, wave, say hi, say hey, saw you on the Business Spotlight. Great conversation, all that fun stuff. So make sure that you get the opportunity to make some connections here as well. But Jessica, I always like to end on one final question, and that is simply, what is most inspiring to you today?
Oh, well, it's Women's History Month, and um, I think recently I've been very inspired by all the women in our community. So and I'll just be completely honest, just a few years back, I think if you thought about like Round Rock or the Round Rock business community or the chamber, or even, I mean, honestly, even the Austin Chamber, you'd think a certain demographic, right? And it usually wasn't female led. But we have such a strong group of women in this community now, and all come together. They're showing up at all the events together. They're really helping each other out. Um, I think that's what's moving me now is just seeing all these women come out in full force to all these business events and connecting with each other and helping each other out. I think that's pretty inspirational.
Amazing. Jessica, I want to say thank you again for taking the time. This has been a genuine pleasure, diving a little bit deep in your journey specifically, talking a bit about marketing and
Yeah.
definitely about the business. So I want to say thank you again for taking the time.
Oh, thanks for having me. This was fun.